Hello and welcome to the Michael Eure Show. My name is Michael Eure. Today's show is about entrepreneurship, Confederate currency, and the new gig economy. My guest today is Sherrod Gresham, entrepreneur, author, and coin collector, among many other things. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Sherrod Gresham, and I was born and raised in a little small town in Virginia. The name of the town was West Point. In 1974, I came to college at St. Augustine's College here in the city and graduated in 1978. And after doing that, I went into human services and worked in human services from 1978 till I just recently retired in 2016. And now I'm promoting my business. And actually how I got into collecting and all of that is that 30 years ago, when I went to a bank in the city and I wanted to buy my wife a house. I needed $3,000. We had saved $3,000, and we went to the bank, and the bank asked us about a net worth. And what a net worth is how much are you worth? How many assets do you have? And so at the time I went in, they asked me a series of questions, and those questions were: one, did I have any stock? Well, just graduating from school and all that, I didn't know what no stock was. I mean, I'm just glad I got a degree. So they asked me about a stock. I'm thinking about a stockyard, and that wasn't the case. So I didn't have any stock. So then they asked me another question: do I have any bonds? And I didn't know what bonds were. Other than I knew at one time I used to do savings bonds, but they talked about different types of bonds. Anyway, long story short, I didn't have any. So the lady sort of got frustrated, so she sighs and she said, "Mr. Gresham, do you have an insurance policy?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Mr. Gresham, how much is that worth?" I said, $10,000. She says, "Mr. Gresham, you worth more dead than you are alive." I was so hurt after she said that. I teared up. My mom and dad always taught me to respect folk. And I got up and I walked out of that bank with my wife and I. And so we were so hurt, we decided we were gonna go to the beach. So we decided we were gonna go to the beach, went to the beach and then came back, and I still had on my heart to buy my wife this house. So I did something that my parents told me not to do. That was to go to a loan company. So I went to this loan company in the city and they asked me, what kind of collateral do you have? I said, "Ma'am," I said, it was a young man. I said, "Sir, I only have three things to my name." I said, "That's a living room suit, no, not a living room suit, a bedroom suit, a dinette set, and 2 cars." So when he looked at me and said, "Okay, we'll take that." They leaned on that and they gave me the loan, and my wife and I were very, very happy. But they gave it to me at an interest of 32%. This was in 1980. I took it. By the grace of God, when I went to the closing, they had what they call an escrow account. Escrow means that it was your insurances and your taxes. We were able to get that money, which was close to $900, and we applied that to the loan. And we were able to pay that loan off in 2 years. After the result of that, we then got our house, paid the loan off, and from that experience led me to begin to look at finances in a way that the only way that you can ever have anything, you have to show on paper that you don't need it. And that drove me to do what I'm doing today in terms of my entrepreneurship, in terms of the book that I've written called African Americans on U.S. Currencies, Numeric Materials, and Coins.
All right, now tell me a little bit about how you got about collecting coins.
Well, one of the ways I wanted to begin to collect coins was that I heard in this when I was at the bank, the lady was asking me about the different assets. And one of the assets was collecting of coins. Okay. So I decided to say, hey, I'm going to start collecting coins.
Now, coins and stamps, are they very valuable, or does it depend?
All depends. Depends. And what depends on anything that is valuable is rare. In other words, it is diminished. In other words, the number of coins or the number of stamps that have been minted. That tells you whether or not it's going to be valuable or not valuable.
Okay. So tell me, how did you come about or stumble across this concept of Confederate currency?
Okay. Well, one day I was doing a coin show, and no, it was a guy that I met that had a book that was called Confederate Currency: The Color of Money. And in this book, it showed Confederate currency and sovereign currency with slaves on it throughout the South. And I was so fascinated that I took that book and began to go to coin shows and began to collect the original dollars. Mm-hmm. And the book talks about slaves on Confederate money in the South. And what that meant was that these persons, slaves, built the economy in the South by, one, picking cotton, transporting cotton, and so all the monies throughout the South had pictures of them doing that. And that was fascinating to me. So that's how I got started in collecting the currency.
Well, which are your favorite samples of currency? I know you talked about picking cotton and some other things. Do you have a favorite?
Not necessarily, but what I do now, I have a quilt, two quilts, that are one on currency of slaves from Virginia and from North Carolina that when I do exhibits and presentations, I show.
Okay. When you go to these trade shows around the country, what are some of the most interesting pieces of money that you've seen or other items that you've seen?
Where at the shows, you've got everything from gold coins to currency with slaves on them. And one of the things that is interesting in all of the shows is all about history. Mm-hmm. So the coins represent somebody's history, American history, European history. There is collections of folks on the Confederate currency, that not only currency but the history of the Confederacy. Also, there are African American coins that came out and began in 1946 with Booker T. Washington, who was the first African American on a $50. Mm-hmm. And followed by him was George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington on a bus coin from 1951 to 1954.
As you travel around the country, do you find a continued interest in collecting coins and stamps and similar items emerging among youth?
Yes.
Okay.
Lots of youth. And at these shows, there are a lot of parents who bring their children there to be able to collect. Because you have to remember, all of your history in America is on the money and is on stamps. Anything that you want to find out about America, you can find it on a U.S. postal stamp or on their currency. All your presidents, most of your presidents that have been deceased or generals are on your paper money. For an example, on the $50 bill is Grant. Grant was one of your presidents and also was a general in the Civil War. Okay, George Washington, the first president of the United States, is on your dollar. So all of your history, if you ever want to learn about history, is study your money. One thing we do well, we spend it, but we don't know from which it comes. So all you have to do, all of your 13 original colonies is in the symbol of the dollar bill. In that little round circle, there are the original 13 colonies. So all of your history, so that's what's been fascinating to me, is that you can learn so much by just looking at your funds, money in your pocket. It's just, they call it history in your pocket.
Okay. So when you talk about coins, and then we have these stamps, and I know we have the Black Heritage Collection. Mm-hmm. Is that a recent phenomenon too? Or has that been at the same time they did the black coins?
Well, the first African American coin was in 1946, which the first African American on the stamp was 1978, and that was an African American woman, Harriet Tubman. She was the first African American woman on the stamp. That series has been lasting for now 40 years. Matter of fact, this year with Dorothy Hikes.
And for the audience, I want to make sure you know that you can ask questions at any point, and we'll get those answers for you. So Do you think that we should collect stamps now? Is it something that people can do no matter how old they are? Is it worthwhile?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful hobby. I think that it's a great educational tool. See, because one of the things I've learned too is that I don't do something just for some money. I do things because that's an interest to me. Now, if at the end of the rainbow, it brings some money, that's a wonderful thing. But I know that having a hobby, and I've been collecting stamps and coins for over 30 years. And it is just something that just fascinates me. It's a conversation piece. It's just a wonderful thing, and I think that it gives people something to do, particularly the elderly, where they can pick stamps, and because you can collect all types. I might do African American coins. They might do boats or ships or sports figures. You know, it's so different, so many different ways that you can you collect this that hobby.
Well, that's very interesting. And we're going to talk back some more, but right now we're going to take a short video break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, what's up? How have you been? I haven't seen you in like forever.
I just finished the placement test and they told me to come here. What's this place about?
Oh yeah, that's the Student Success Department. I just got done in there. They help students in their first year experience program.
So what's the first year experience program?
Oh, it's just for students who test into 2 pre-curriculum courses.
Okay, cool. So they're gonna be able to help me sign up for classes?
Not really. What they do is they let you know what classes you need to sign up for according to your test scores and your major. They also help you set up your key account and your Wake Tech email, which is really important. And they have you sign up for orientation.
But do we need to go to orientation?
Yeah, you do. And if you don't, they'll put a hold on your account and you won't be able to register for classes. And it has to be an in-person orientation.
Is the first year experience program mandatory?
Yeah, it is. I know, right? But I had a friend that was in it last semester and said it was a really great program and it helps him understand exactly what he needed to do to stay on top of school.
What else do we have to do for the program?
We have to go to orientation, sign up for ACAO 90, which is a study skills class, meet with a success counselor twice, attend a workshop or event on campus, and get a midterm report form signed by your instructor to know your grades.
What?
Yeah, I know, but once you meet with your student success counselor, they'll go through everything with you, and if you don't understand, just ask them questions.
Okay, well I guess I better get started.
Yeah, and while you're in there, don't forget to sign up for orientation.
Yeah, I don't want to miss that.
Yeah, you definitely don't. Maybe I'll see you around, maybe even at orientation or something.
Yeah, I'll see you later. See ya.
To sign up for orientation, go to orientation.waketech.edu and don't forget to activate your Wake Tech email.
All right, we're back, and I'm here with Sherrod Gresham, collector of Confederate currency. You're also an author. Tell me a little bit about your latest book, African Americans on U.S. Currency and Numismatic Materials. I get tongue twisted on that. Go ahead.
Let me tell you, numismatics mean that's the study of coins, currency, and metals. That's what that word. That's the fancy word for a collector of and study of that hobby. My book was written as a compilation of currency, coins, and metals, specifically for African Americans. And it was written to give African Americans a guide to be able to, if they wanted really to collect some of the coins or the metals or the currency, they have a book that they could look to. When I started out, I did not have that. All I knew I wanted to collect based on the embarrassment that I had. So I tried to put together a book, and the book starts off with Confederate notes, and some of those notes are part of my collection of slaves. And then the second chapter is African Americans who have signed currency. See, the president has a Secretary of Treasury whose responsibility is to sign currency before it is sent out for us to spend. So on your money today, you have 2 signatures, and those signatures are persons that are signed by a president of the United States to sign that currency. Well, there are 5 black African Americans who signed currency starting in the 1800s. right after Reconstruction, right during Reconstruction. And so in the book are those 5 signers who signed currency in the money they signed. And also one of those persons is a African American woman by the name of Asa Taylor Martin. She is the first and only African American woman to sign currency under Jimmy Carter's administration in 1977. And then in the next chapters, you will see the first African American coins that came out, which are Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver. And then you have what they call a commemorative. Those are commemorative coins. What a commemorative coin is a person who has made a contribution to American history. So you have Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver. You have the Little Rock Nine, who are the 9 students who integrated the schools in Arkansas. There is a silver dollar in their honor. There is Jackie Robinson, who broke the color barrel. There is a silver dollar and a gold coin in his honor. You have the Crispus Attucks coin. You remember the Revolutionary War, the Tea Party, the shot around the world. Well, the coin that represents that is Crispus Attucks. And finally, you have a silver dollar on the civil rights movement that came out in 2014, celebrating 50 years of that, the civil rights document. And then you move on from there to medals. Medals on Roy Wilkins, who was the head of the NAACP, Colin Powell, first African-American Secretary of State, and right on to President Obama's inauguration medals, as well as his presidential medals that came out in January of 2017.
All right, and we're going to talk a little bit more, but I think I want to be off a little bit. These images, tell me what they are and what you do with them.
The images that you see, these are what they're dancing dolls. And if you'd like to see me perform these dancing dolls, I will be on September the 16th at, it's called the Harvest Fest. It's at Yates Mills Park off of Lake Willamette Road. I will be performing there at about 12 noon, 12:45, in between a couple of bands. I have been doing that now for the last 4 or 5 years, performing the dancing dolls there. But these dolls are unique because they were made by a friend of mine. His name was George Savance. George died in 2008 at the age of 86 years old. But in the Depression, George went to a bank up in Henderson, North Carolina. And in the back of that bank was a 10-cent store, was a guy dancing some dolls. And at the time, George was about 13 years old. And so his dad went to his dad and said, "Dad, can you buy me one of them dancing dolls?" So George's dad said, "How much is it?" He said, $1. George's dad looked at him and said, "Son, I can't afford it." And George dropped his head. But then his dad put his hand on his shoulder and said, "George, you can make that doll." So George went home and got a butcher knife, an apple crate, 2 match stem, and a hanger, and made his first dancing doll. And from the age of 13 years old till he died in 2008, he has made these dancing dolls.
Wow.
And so I have a collection of his dancing dolls, and I dance in his honor, and I have a few of them that I have for sale. But overall, I use these and dance these dolls in his honor.
Wow. So I guess you're not going to do it for us in here, but tell me about your book. If people want to get a copy of the book, how would they do that?
They could email me, one at Gresham Coins, #1 at hotmail.com, or you also can buy it on Amazon or Creative Space.
Okay. So I know that you have been at various events like the African American Cultural Celebration at the Museum of History, and that's coming up. And I'm just going to throw out anybody that's interested in performing or presenting. The deadline is September 15th. You can go to the North Carolina Museum of History's website, and that's a great event. And you'll be there again, won't you?
Yes.
Okay. And will you have the dancing dolls and your quilts?
Probably will have quilts because my space is limited. So I saw to pick one or two things to present because of the short, the number of spaces that I have. But I'm doing my website over again, so I'm gonna be presenting at different places. So, and I'll put that out. And sometimes I also on Facebook, so you can look at. It's called Gresham's Historical Artifacts on Facebook. And I post different things that come out in places that I will be in the future.
And I know you spoke to many schools and many civic leagues, and maybe we'll get you back at St. Aug. Maybe one of the professors would like you to come talk to the class. Would you be available for that?
Available to do so.
Okay. All right. So we have went around a lot. We're going to go to the break right now, and we'll be back and take questions and finish with Sherrod. Thanks.
Discover career and employment resources at Wake Tech. We can help you land the job you want and jumpstart your career. Here are 5 foolproof tips to help you get ready for your future. Tip number 1, get your resume in shape. Wake Tech's career specialist can help you make sure your resume is polished, professional, and up to date. Tip number 2, practice your elevator speech. What's that? It's you, the Wikipedia version, that highlights your skills and experience and leaves potential employers wanting to know more. Tip number 3, prepare for your interview. Research the company and come up with relevant questions to show you're interested and that you've done your homework. Tip number 4, attend a career fair. Take advantage of a wide net of employers and the opportunity to showcase your strengths. Tip number 5, wear professional, job-appropriate attire and present your best self. Remember to smile, shake hands firmly, and speak clearly. Get the latest info and more tips like these at careers.waketech.edu. Discover your future.
All right, welcome back with Sherrod Gresham. And we're going to take some questions now if anybody has any. But we did talk about the entrepreneurship and the new gig economy. And the new gig economy is really not new. That's just an idea of working as an entrepreneur. It's just a term. So had you heard that term before?
I had not.
Wow.
No.
That's just a term. It doesn't mean anything. So we just want people to know that's just about you contracting and having different skills that you kind of work out.
What was the significance of collecting these currencies, treasures, books? Why did you do that? What was the significance for you?
Significance for me is one, learning my history, one through collecting those items. I am a picture person. And coming up in high school, believe it or not, or even in school, I hated history because all I learned about was slavery. And when you talk about people's self-esteem, when you talk about people's psyche, I want to see people like me that are successful. And then I want to take that and then share that with other people, that I don't care what you go through or what happens. There are some folk that was in a situation worse than you, and look what they did. So the significance of getting those people is showing that there is a race of people that worked real hard, still working hard, but I don't believe is getting the credit or the respect for the work and the foundations which they built this America on.
Do we have any other questions?
Yes. Miranda wants to know, how many coins do you have?
How many coins do I have? Well, I have what they call collections. I have what they call a silver eagle. Ronald Reagan in 1986 started a American silver eagle collection. That was around the age of my son was born in 1985. I began to collect that collection in 1985, a coin or two each month for 31. My son will be 32 years old this year. So this is my 31st year of collecting that coin.
Wow. What's the most valuable coin you own?
The most valuable coin I own probably is a gold coin. There's a gold coin that just came out in the United States Mint. And that gold coin has, for the first time in the history of the United States, an image of a black woman for liberty. All right? The United States Mint put that coin out on April the 6th. Right now, that coin, in terms of the mintage of that coin, they're only going to mint 100,000. Right now, it's only 23,000 existing. And it will stop selling that coin on December the 31st.
First coin.
First coin was Booker T. Washington, George Washington called.
That was your first coin ever.
Yeah.
What's your favorite coin?
I have to say my Eagles. That's a beautiful coin. And it's when you talk about the history, the American Eagle tells the story. It got the 13 colonies on the back, represented by stars. I mean, you talking about American history, that the Silver Eagle, and it's one of the most beautiful coins that I have seen.
Okay, so we're going to get ready to wrap up. I'd like to thank the audience for working with us, especially through our technical difficulties, but we think that Sherrod Gresham was a great visitor to our show. We'd like to probably have you back to some other events.
Love to come.
And I'd like to thank you, and we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right.